Marvel's Iron Fist will not return for a third season on Netflix, said the Disney-owned comic giant and the streamer in a joint statement to Deadline. Everyone at Marvel Television and Netflix is proud of the series and grateful for all the hard work from our incredible cast, crew, and showrunners. We're thankful to the fans who have watched these 2 seasons and for the partnership we've shared on this series. While this series on Netflix has ended, the immortal Iron Fist will live on. That was Deadline on October 12, 2018. October 19th, unfortunately, Marvel's Luke Cage will not return for a third season. Everyone at Marvel Television and Netflix is grateful to the dedicated showrunner, writers, cast and crew who brought Harlem's heroes to life for the past 2 seasons, and to all the fans who have supported the series. Again, that was Deadline. Just late Friday night, I remember getting an email about that really late, and I was like hanging out with friends, and I was like, what is going on right now? So, I have called this emergency episode of AP Marvel. I'm Chris Compendio. I got our subs here. I got Sabrina Clark. What's up?
Hey, what's up?
Not much. Just talking about some canceled shows.
Oh yeah.
Thomas Rasmussen's back. How's the laundry folding going?
Hey guys, I am back. The laundry folding is going very well.
Okay, cool. Well, I've gathered the both of you here. We've heard a lot of theories about what's going on behind the scenes, like what kind of game is Marvel TV playing with Netflix and whatnot, and that's something I don't necessarily want to talk about. I kind of want to focus on just things we liked about these 2 shows, kind of like a I've been joking that this is kind of like an obituary of some sort, like a God, my mind's blanking. What the hell is like a speech at a funeral? A
eulogy?
A eulogy? Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a great Googleizer, like Derek Zoolander said. So yeah, we hadn't really planned this out. Like, I have a few moments in mind, but I guess let's talk about Luke Cage first, since that went on the air first. Just in general, what were things, and Sabrina, you can start off, like, what were general things that you liked about Luke Cage just from the get-go, like when it first premiered?
Absolutely. Well, before Luke Cage was even announced, I think I had created a sort of excitement in me, because I knew that Defenders was coming, but I didn't know what that would necessarily mean, or the order in which they would necessarily, like, present the seasons. But when Luke Cage was announced, I remember being so excited, because in that year, I think it was 2016, we had seen, it wasn't necessarily the peak of police brutality, but it definitely was an important time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where Luke Cage would have made the most difference. And especially in the execution of Luke as a character, and the fact that he's a bulletproof black man in 2016 made a really big impression on me, and I think that the way that they characterized him as well was really good. Some of my favorite moments are all of the action scenes and every single scene with Mahershala Ali.
Oh, yeah.
I remember a few days ago I was talking to a friend about how if they hadn't, spoiler alert, if they hadn't killed off Cottonmouth so early, they probably could have led up to his death being the pinnacle, or the sort of like the cliffhanger of the end of season 1, and that way we would go into more exploration to Mariah Dillard's character in season 2. And I feel like had that been done, we would have gotten more time. We would have gotten the chance to spend more time with Cottonmouth, because he as a villain is just unreal, and Mahershala Ali performing him was impeccable, and I could honestly rewatch all of those scenes just over and over again.
He's so charismatic, like.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there are like several video montages on YouTube of like every time he just laughed in the show, because he has a very distinct laugh. But yeah, that was definitely a bold move. I think it was like episode 6 or something like. It was like smack dab in the middle of the season, and it was just totally jaw-dropping, and like it definitely provoked like this, oh my god, did they really do that moment? And the payoff, I feel like the consensus is that it didn't pay off.
I definitely feel like they were going for like breaking up the cliches, and like we're building up this villain, and like whoop, it's not that guy. But I did think that they sort of did not stick the execution. A lot of people talked about the last few episodes of Luke Cage season 1 as being much worse than the first couple episodes, or at least more boring. I think that's because everyone got very excited for Cottonmouth and Luke Cage and for that to be a thing. I do like what they did with Mariah. I think that she turned into a much more interesting character and had a very believable arc. So I am thankful that they got to do that. Maybe she should have been the season 1 big baddie in a techno suit from Hammer.
Big baddie.
Yeah. Sabrina, did you mentioned action scenes? Like, you mentioned every single action scene, I think is what you said.
Yeah.
Were there any in particular that kind of stood out to you?
I'm gonna have to go back through the archives. I just pulled up like a list of the episodes.
Yeah.
Let's see. The barbershop, obviously. That big shootout was really exciting.
Oh, when Pop was offed.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It was nice and emotional, and it lasted quite the perfect amount of time, A lot of the... Let's see, I'm going to pick specific episodes here.
There was the Fort Knox, I think, the Fort Knox attack, when he came into the car door. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Are you talking about the one in episode 9?
It was much earlier, I think.
Much
it was
okay.
end of episode 2 or 3, I want to say. But it was what they called Fort Knox. Like, it was, I forget, it was some sort of haven for Mariah and Cottonmouth. But in terms of stuff that they're stocking in there. Yeah, that was kind of their hallway fight scene. It was just kind of Luke Cage just kind of plowing through this large group of people and making his way up the building.
Right.
I want to say he threw a couch out the window at the end. I think that's how the episode began. It's you're probably wondering how I got here moment.
Right. For me, I think the action scene that first came to mind was in episode 9, where Luke is on the run and he gets picked up by a police officer or two, and there's a little altercation that goes down there.
Yeah.
And it's not a full action scene, but it's a moment with a lot of tension that I think helps to reiterate this point of needing a bulletproof character, especially in the streets of Harlem. And it also gives Luke an ability to see the fact that he's needed, which I think is important.
Right.
But I'm going to keep scrolling through other episodes and see if I find action.
Couldn't you see that from it was seen from a dash cam? I want to say it from a police dash cam.
Ooh,
yeah, from either from the actual dash cam, or I remember they kept the camera in the dashboard. So the scene starts with him with the police officer outside of the car stopping Luke. And that was just a whole other type of emotional experience in and of itself. Yeah,
something about seeing it in that exact format, in this very real way that we're all too used to seeing from, through all the news that's happening.
Right.
And of course, there is a whole montage of the police kind of picking out these people who have fake Luke Cage sweaters, hoodies with holes in them. All while I think Method Man's "Bulletproof Love" was playing in the background. Probably that sounds right.
Just making it a whole cultural experience.
Yeah. A song that straight up name drops Trayvon Martin. I was just right before we started the Skype call. I was watching. I was refreshing my memory. I was reading a Paste magazine list of the awesome musician cameos from Luke Cage season 1 because I was so I was so entranced. Kind of a big word, entranced, but I was so interested in all of these musical acts that I otherwise probably would not have been exposed to because I don't know anything. But it was this one sequence it was Charles Bradley performing "Ain't It a Sin," which I thought was a really cool and energetic song. I want to say Charles Bradley passed away sometime last year, I think. But it's just so full of energy, and then in the meanwhile, they're showing this montage of like Luke Cage kind of like again like messing up all of these like smaller like crime strongholds and like breaking open safes and like bending pistols in half and stuff like that. And like just really him like at the beginning of his prime, like being Harlem's hero.
Yeah, the role of music in I really think Luke Cage of all the Netflix shows is the one most associated with getting just a tone of the show really well. And there's this feeling of like acts of heroics accompanied by like slow music that was very tonal, very like appropriate for like the Harlem's Paradise Club. And just like the use of B-roll and the environment and just like the characters around. I felt like more than any other show, Luke Cage was maybe slow, but it felt like its own show.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Maybe more so than Daredevil or Jessica Jones, and certainly more than Iron Fist. It made use of like its own space.
Right. I think it definitely got establishing the world really, really correctly. Mm-hmm. And I was like going through the extra notes that we'd had, or like the whatever doc it is that has other topic ideas.
Sure.
And I saw that there was a question of whether or not Harlem was accurately depicted in Luke Cage. And I feel like, to me personally, like as a Black woman in America, I feel like I always have to say that because my voice might not match what people assume my face looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just going to go ahead and put that out there. But I feel like as a Black woman in America, I can only assume that Harlem looks like this and sounds like this and feels like this. It's very family oriented.
Right.
But that's really a question that only native Harlem residents, what's the word I'm looking for? Native Harlem residents. Okay, great. I said that right.
Probably,
could possibly identify with and like
absolutely.
Actually analyze. But I know that the music itself also helped to like fully immerse the audience in that world. And even if it wasn't complete 100% accurate to Harlem during this time, I feel like it still does a good job of representing Black America, which is important in taking on a story like this.
Yeah, it definitely like, you know, I couldn't personally tell you if it was authentic or not. Like, I'm like the worst person to ask, but like it felt very inviting in a way that like made me want to learn more.
Right.
If everything felt, whether it was real, whether it was like accurate or not, it felt like a realized place rather than like the, you know, borderline cartoonish, like there was so much gang warfare, Hell's Kitchen in Daredevil, for example.
Right.
It felt like a caricature, whereas like Harlem, like it definitely helped that they got a lot of actual real names. So there was the whole like, first of all the musical performers were all real people. Second, there was like, I remember that scene with it's like for Pop's funeral, and they recruit Dapper Dan to like fix him up a suit, and like Dapper Dan's a real person, I found out later on. And then he's wearing that suit the entire episode, and it's this whole extended sequence of people running up to Luke Cage being like, hey, I need your help with this thing, and he just like helps them, you know, like just like instantly, and like smacks some people around, and that was like the moment that really defined Luke Cage for me, like just the really being like a man of the people, really being a true street hero who's like just out in the open, and people can like you know, like the whole Heroes for Hire premise, you know, that's where it felt fully realized in this very like natural way.
Yeah.
And then season 2 had the Jamaicans in it.
It did.
Which I think, yeah, it had a very it was definitely an interesting addition. It sounded like, from what I've read from people who are more familiar with the matter than I am, that they got a lot of like the lexicon right. They got a lot of the lingo and like the wording and the language correct. Apparently, what they didn't get right were the actual accents.
Yikes.
Yeah. So, It sounded like they tried their best, but they probably could have gotten actual like speakers of but oh boy.
I will say the actor who played Bushmaster did an incredible job of providing a menacing presence at the same time as being a relatable villain, and I thought he was a great actor. The fact that he did not have a Jamaican accent and could not replicate one to save his career, I feel like there was maybe a trade-off to be made, and they might have made the right choice, because I did enjoy him in all other respects.
Yeah, I mean, as someone like me who's stupid, it was convincing.
Right. And, it was a not from here accent, and that was as much as I could have.
Yeah, I'm sure all the whites in America will give me. Oh yeah, that's probably it. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Like there are several sequences of like like his lieutenants, let's call them, kind of like slowly strolling around in their car, like on the lookout, and their windows are open. They're kind of like eyeing people in this threatening manner, and you can like hear like Jamaican-ish music kind of like playing in the background. It's like the Jaws theme, but it's just like this very lighthearted, like cool Jamaican music, and I really liked that, like kind of adding to the atmosphere of it all. So I think in most respects, like that season 2 was successful, even though they could have done a little better in the accent department, which is something that most movies and television shows totally fail with.
I think being that I haven't seen the second season, and knowing that it was supposed to be centered around Jamaican culture kind of makes me excited, because of the fact that that's only going to deepen the world of Luke Cage and immerse the audience more fully into all the possible like potential terrors or mishaps in Harlem or in Luke Cage's world and realm, which I think is pretty exciting and also interesting and important when continuing to build this character in this series, especially under the assumption that you would be given a third season.
I was about to say, building the world might be a little harder now, but we'll see what happens.
So, one thing that I really liked about season 1 that I was really hoping season 2 would pick up on was it felt like season 1 did a really good deconstruction of how Shades sort of plays this. He's not like, I think he's supposed to be like raised in a poor neighborhood and like of Latino descent and stuff like that, but he in the first season was the lightest skinned character, so he was the stand-in for like the corrupting white influence, who was sort of like pitting these people against each other. For Cottonmouth, it was like the threat of like, oh, Diamondback's gonna come down here, like you've got to do something about this, pushing Luke Cage to his limits. And it was sort of a deconstruction of like how the socioeconomic like necessity of crime drives black on black crime. I thought that was like an element of it, and I was excited for season 2 to be like, okay, we've dealt with that, now we're gonna deal with like some bad like white slumlords or something like that. Like that is sort of where I wanted it to go.
Right.
And it went to like,
that would have been interesting.
I don't know, it went to what was essentially like Bushmaster's family were slaves and they were poor, and like Cottonmouth's father screwed them over on a business deal, so he swore vengeance, and it was very much like they lost that thread entirely, and sort of created a conflict where like I genuinely was like on Bushmaster's side for part of it, where I felt like, especially by the end, the very end of Luke Cage season 2, I assume spoilers are fine. Luke Cage fails the hero's journey and sort of like decides to become a villain in a sense. And I was sort of surprised by that and didn't know what the message was supposed to be there. Because he was a very moral, upstanding person and sort of paragon of virtue. And I kind of liked that about him. I kind of liked that he like stuck to his code and kept going with it. And they really derailed that, and I thought that the only chance they would have like to redeem that choice was in season 3, but now
the what?
Now they're in season 3.
So
It was, it was. Failed the hero's journey is such an interesting phrase.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Which part of the hero's journey, as there are so many.
Yeah. There are several steps, several named steps of the hero's journey. I don't know. Maybe the elixir he comes back with is crime. I don't know. My parents did not like the end of the first. Like, they were kind of tired at by the end of the first season. They thought that, like, they were kind of into the first half, and then the second half just kind of, like, turned them off. So they never even bothered with season 2. But I described the ending to them, and I described, like, the exact shots. And, like Thomas probably knows what I'm talking about, because my parents are like, "Oh, The Godfather."
Yes, exactly. It was a direct ripoff.
It was literally, like, shot for shot, like the scene from Godfather, with them closing the door while someone's whispering in Luke's ear, and I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool. I like that." But that's so disappointing that they'll just never get to do anything. Supposedly never get to do anything, at least not on Netflix. But that's not what this episode's about. Instead, we're talking about how much we loved hearing the Jamaican terms rasclat and pygmy in season 2, right, Thomas?
Yes.
Rasclat, yeah.
It has been a couple months, so I don't actually remember that specifically.
So I remember there was a scene where, like, Luke was like, "Wait, what? Rasclat?" He was, like, trying to figure out what that meant. Yeah, season 2 had some musical performances. There is, oh dear lord, I feel like I put her song in a playlist afterwards. It was, so what's her name? I have a Mashable article on right now, and it is not loading. Was it Esperanza Spalding? Yeah, she was in one scene. Kingfish. This very blues, like, pair of songs, and, like, these really sick guitar solos. Like, it continued that thread really nicely. I mean, I think the that first scene in Harlem's Paradise in season 1 with the song "Good Man," if you guys remember that, like, oh man, that was, like, the filmmaker in me was just, like, gushing over that scene, like, just how well lit it was, and, like, the tracking shot, like, through the audience and to the stage and all the way up to Mahershala up in the balcony.
Yeah, there were so many good, like, audio visual moments in season 1 that I really did appreciate, and that I feel like are kind of undervalued and underrated, because I know a lot of people get stuck with the image of Mahershala Ali in front of the Biggie poster, where the crown just, like, hovers over his head, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's so cheap, why did you do that?" But it's one of the many, many, many beautiful shots that show has, and I feel like Luke Cage took direction in a very different direction. Like, it kind of leveled, not even leveled the playing field, but it rose the bar a bit in creating this constant theme between the tracks that are chosen in each scene and in each, like, critical point of the story in each episode. And I feel like those things are going to be truly missed, because I loved watching Luke Cage for the style, and I love watching each of the Marvel shows except for Iron Fist, for the styles that they have, because they're so particular and precise with what they're trying to convey.
Yeah, it definitely has a very specific atmosphere that I think will be sorely missed now. Like, I really like the musical score also. I remember in the lead up to season 1's release, Marvel Music released this curated, inspired by, I guess, like, stuff that they were listening to, or maybe, like, playing on set or whatever. And I'll probably see if I can post that link in the show notes. But I was, like, almost, like, infatuated with that playlist. I was just listening to that for such the longest time, and it was like this gateway, to this genre that I had, like, really not known about. And that's kind of the cool thing about art, like, people might not have a good image of like what Harlem is like, and like, you know, here's something that it's they're sharing it in a way, you know, which I think is a really cool thing that art can do. So, oh man, yeah, I was bummed out, even though like I've had like a few story issues with Luke Cage, you know.
Agreed.
Yeah.
It apparently creative differences was the thing, but I don't know what that means. I don't understand what's happening, man. But it's not our job to figure that out.
Who even knows what creative differences means?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But this was definitely, I mean, since on a more meta note, this is definitely like a week of reckoning over at Netflix. Creative differences don't happen like in two related shows in the same day. There's something going on.
Yeah, everyone clings to your loved ones, and by loved ones I mean Daredevil and Jessica Jones and maybe the Punisher.
Yeah, I'm worried my shows are gonna get canceled.
Yeah.
You know,
Who's next? Sabrina, we don't have to let you go soon, do we? I think it's almost 8:30. Yeah. Well, we can, since you have not seen Iron Fist, we can let you go at this point if you'd like.
Thanks for having me, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and
always a pleasure.
Shall I give a sign off?
Well, Sabrina, where can people find you on social media?
Well, everyone, if you would like to follow me on Instagram, you can find me at sabrina.m4v. That's at sabrina.m4v, like the video file. And then on Twitter, you can find me at sabsclarke, which is at sabsclarke.
Hashtag free Sabrina's old Twitter.
Yes, free my old Twitter.
Rest in peace.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, Sabrina. I value your perspective, and I'm glad you're able to join us.
Thanks for having me, you guys. I hope we get to actually see each other in person for once.
Yeah, right. And we're back. We took a short 5-second break after Sabrina signed off, and we're back here. Thomas, how is the laundry going right now?
Yeah, so I folded pretty much everything and put away some stuff on the call. So hopefully that did not create a lot of background noise, and now I can just chill. So
there you go.
Very exciting.
Yeah, we got a lot done in these first 30 minutes.
And I apologize for pushing the call late, and we lose Sabrina early because of that. I went for a run and got lost and couldn't find my way back for 30 minutes. So this delayed everything in my day.
Where were you going?
So my goal is to run 11 miles today, and so I literally ran 6 miles in just a direction. The direction in this case was north, and could not find my way back.
So what you're saying is that you're stupid.
That is what I'm saying. Yes.
So let's talk about our favorite moments from Iron Fist Season 1, shall we?
I figured we'd have time because this should be a shortish list. But
go ahead, please. I can't think of anything right now.
I think there are so many moments that were silly, but they didn't mean for them to be silly. I remember when Harold Meacham first sees like the handprint on the window.
Yeah.
And it's this big, stressful, and then it like zooms out to show that he's at like the top of like a multi-story building, and like, oh, that's insane. And it's just so funny to me to see like a grimy handprint be like the omen of doom.
Yeah.
And there's so many moments like that in the show where I enjoyed it in a way that was not intended, but I did in fact enjoy it.
How about that taxi dodge when he like did a little flip in episode 1?
That was good.
That was
as well.
In that it was bad,
or,
but like
needs to be said. Danny's power of like calming that dog down with some sort of like meditative pose, and then that is never referenced or used ever again. But just little gems like that.
Could have used that on Davos, you know.
Could have.
He's a mad dog, you know. Just quell him. I hesitate to like dunk on this show so much, like now that it's like technically dead at the moment, but like
yeah,
there was a homeless dude who
it.
was like, hey, if you ever want to find out about anyone, I got a phone with the internet and you could just search about anyone. It was like the worst way to give exposition.
An expositional device.
Yeah.
I will say in a broader sense, I think there are there are movies like Deadpool where you're supposed to laugh with the creators of the movie about like, oh, aren't superheroes dumb and all these conventions. And I think Iron Fist filled this role, which was really like laughing, not with the creators, but very much laughing at like superheroes and how ridiculous they can be, and some of those tropes. And I've had some really fun moments with friends watching Iron Fist, and it's not that it was so god awful and bad. If I was looking for that, I would go to Inhumans. But like, it was just on that line where it was good and it fit the mold, except for the places where it fell apart, and those were numerous enough to be just a enjoyable watching experience.
Yeah.
And for something cobbled together and rushed out before Defenders, I have a little bit of sympathy for some of the decisions made in Iron Fist Season 1. Less so in the Inception. I think the Inception was not great, but once everyone was there on set, I don't know, maybe they did their best.
I mean, whenever I see a picture of Scott Buck, I'm like, he kind of looks like Harold Meacham, doesn't he? And I was like, huh, I feel like if you're gonna run the show, you should see yourself in like the protagonist. So like if they got like a cool dude who like knew about like kung fu and Asian culture, or like at the very least the comics, which is like what they did with season 2. They got his comic fan to actually do the damn show.
I would have loved a kung fu director.
Yeah,
that would have been amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Even as an advising role.
Yeah, I don't. It seemed like we had to get the first person available, and so it's got the guy who made Dexter into a laughingstock. And
it was confirmed that he got the job because he said he could do it in the least amount of time, right? Like his
I think that was in Humans. That was the director of the first 2 episodes who said that. But maybe Scott Buck said that. I don't know. Maybe there is like a pattern here.
So hold on, because I think Scott Buck did both, didn't he?
He did Inhumans, but I'm talking about the actual director of the 2 Inhumans episodes, because like Scott Buck's just the writer.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like this dude who did a bunch of like direct to DVD schlock, like Death Race 2, and that's all I can think about what is done. Let's give him the IMAX camera, and so that was a bizarre that those first 2 episodes were terribly shot. They looked very they were bad.
They were not good.
Okay, good thing about Iron Fist season 1. I liked episode 6 with the whole gauntlet of like weird baddies that he has to fight.
And that one was the most just unashamedly comic book too. Mm-hmm. Like the spider lady whose day job is studying spiders, and then her fighting style is with poison. Like it's just the most. But that was the most fun. Yeah. Because you can't watch that and be like, oh yeah, this is a serious rendition taking place in modern day. You just like, oh yeah, it's some comic book show about crazy costume people fighting each other with kung fu. Like, that's all we needed. And we got it for a little while, and that was awesome.
Yeah. There was also the guy who was singing "Take on Me" during karaoke, and he was also like killing everyone, and then he strangled a guy with a microphone. Like that guy seemed like he knew how to party. So
that actor was so fun that I was sort of, I don't know, a little bit rooting for him, right? Like I wanted him to stick around and do more stuff. Like even as he was strangling people, I was like, oh, this guy's cool.
Yeah, this guy's all right.
Yeah. And speaking of super fun, I wish they were the Iron Fist protagonist actors. There's the drunken fight sequence.
Talk about Louis Tan, who is infamous amongst my colleagues, but beloved by myself and Izzy.
Indeed.
Yeah. He was. I don't know if his accent was. I don't know what that was, but like, he was fun to watch. Like the physicality of his role. He seemed to know like what he was doing, in a really fun way. And it was almost meta the way he was like, "Oh, so you think you're the Iron Fist?" And,
yeah.
It was a neat little scene, but that's literally the only scene that dude was in.
I can't believe they didn't try to bring him back for season 2 for something. I guess the Hand is over. They're not doing Hand anymore. But he set himself up to be, like, the antithesis of the Iron Fist in some sort of, like, arch nemesis role.
Mm-hmm.
And there was something about, like, he needed to keep his dragon sedated. So implying that if he was not drunk, he would actually be even greater.
Yeah. I don't know. That's
and I think that would have been an awesome callback.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would have been super cool. But I enjoyed that fight and wanted more of it. Is I guess the moral of that story.
Yeah, I mean those same colleagues of mine would be like, "Oh, he was throwing shade at Marvel and Netflix on Twitter," and I was like,
"Well, yeah."
You're acting like he's a sex offender or something like that. Like what he said and did, like even though he was criticizing the casting and saying he wished he got cast, like maybe he can be like very self-promoting, but like a lot of people in Hollywood are.
Yeah.
And like that,
it's also just honest.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He's not being a scumbag to people openly like a lot of people are. Like a lot of
yeah.
So I don't know why there was like such a particular hatred, like not hatred, but you know people do not like him. And I totally maybe I'm apologetic of like the shade he was throwing, but like it really wasn't that big of a deal. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Louis Chan is all right. I mean, I know people are complaining like, like he really likens himself as someone like much better than he actually is. Like he's like, oh, I really want to play Nightwing, and everyone's like, you probably think too much. That could be true, but like again, at least he's not a piece of shit person.
Right. I think passion for yourself in these roles that you love is like, I don't know, I'd like that in actors.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd find that endearing in most of them. I think it just comes down to like he's butting heads with people that we like Marvel.
Yeah.
You know?
It's not like he got in front of a camera with a microphone and like WWE style started like trash talking, you know, Jeff Loeb or something like that. Like,
yeah.
Which that would have been funny though. I'd love to see that.
I would like to see that.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Finn Jones, now that he's done with the show,
mm-hmm.
just go on some tirade, knowing he can't be fired anymore.
Oh, but yeah, the Iron Fist is immortal, and they will keep putting him on other shows according to Entertainment
Weekly. So what does that mean?
I don't know.
Does that mean just cameos? Does that mean Defenders season 2?
Oh, of course not. No, of course there's never going to be a Defenders season 2. Are you crazy?
Like, Finn Jones can't like. He's not contractually obligated to do those cameos.
I have
right?
no idea what the status of that is. Like, I don't think there are always very few details on like what the TV actors signed. You know, like we always hear about like the Marvel Studios actors. They're always like, oh, well, I have like a 6-picture deal with Marvel Studios or something like that. I think like the kid from Iron Man 3 has like some absurd picture deal. I want to say.
Does he really?
Yeah, no, I think even like Aaron Taylor Johnson has like a several film picture deal, and
wow,
Quicksilver's dead, man. Yeah, season 1, it was really just Ward, you know, just following his struggle with addiction. Like there was that one scene where he's like slamming his car door into his hand and like just trying to get a fix, and like that was just like really sad to watch, but like, you know, it painted an interesting picture, I think, that like set up some more interesting things in season 2, which you and I talked about with Adam and Rhiannon in that previous episode. Besides that, I love the shot of him holding up his middle fingers up to the cameras.
Yeah.
Harold beat up I think he murdered his assistant with an ice cream scoop.
That was actually, that's one of my favorite unintentionally hilarious moments, where he's just like, is there vanilla? And he just murders him with an ice cream scoop.
Yeah.
Oh my god. That could be out of a straight up comedy if it wasn't played so straight. Like... Yeah.
That was Harold Meacham was a weird character. Like when he
was a weird character
when he resurrected the second time, like out of the swamp, and then like just meandered around like a zombie. It was straight up like a comedy at that point. It was bizarre.
Like, why would you what a strange creative choice to have him like come back from the dead, but be like a 5-year-old for a little while.
Yeah. Bold decision.
Yeah. There's a few of those.
Yeah.
You know?
Also, the Hand Civil War was I was so confused, and I was like, why do you have like a camp full of murderous teenagers now?
That I did kind of. I did like Bushido's camp because it shows a side of the Hand of like, how are they getting these ninjas? Like, how are they recruiting these people?
Yeah.
And it's sort of like you take underprivileged youths and you sort of give them a home and a place to stay, and then prey on their like gratitude and nowhere to go, and train them. And then they get more devoted like a cult. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, that kind of shows like how the Hand operates as an organization.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff. But then I don't think that they really followed through on that, because they did show like Gao and Bushido as being like competing factions. I thought it would have been way more interesting to
Bakudo,
be like, they are close. Bakudo, yes, sorry. It would have been way more cool to have them be like working together the whole time and be borderline friends, and have that reveal be a little stronger.
They were next time.
They were in the yeah, you were correct.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The Hand is just whatever the current plot needs it to be.
It is.
Also, ironically, Davos did the exact same thing in season 2. Took advantage of these underprivileged kids.
Yeah. Okay, so it was the moral of Iron Fist supposed to be like the fight against income inequality by the richest person in New York, or because like it kind of felt like there was this sense of like the Hand operates in the city because there are so many poor people that they can take advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
But like then the richest man in New York fights that by punching them. I don't know what there was maybe a story thread there that didn't quite get woven in, but I appreciate that someone behind the scenes was trying. Someone in the screenwriting room was like, we should really tie this into a relevant social issue of the day. And, there was only one of the writers, and he got shouted down, but it's in there somewhere in the DNA of that show.
Sure. I mean, season 1 had a kind of compassionate corporation little spiel, like when he was like, oh yeah, let's just sell these at cost. And then there was like this lady outside the building who thanked him, and then he became like the profile of a viral YouTube video and like a magazine article or something like that. Corporations are people too, my friend. As Mitt Romney reminded us back in 2012.
Yeah, I think this show was not timely, nor
it's
was
a bit tone deaf.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what I was going for. I also never felt like Chinatown was a real place, especially the way Harlem was for Luke Cage.
Not at all. No.
And again, this is not a shit on Iron Fist kind of thing, but it just felt like Rand did feel like a real thing, and its presence in the city and its like name recognition like did feel real. So like the company felt like a character. I think in season 2 they tried to make Chinatown much more of a character, and I certainly got that there were people who lived there and they were concerned about the place, and the community center was really nice. set piece. I thought that was a great place to be like fighting over, because it's just something so pure, you know.
Yeah, I would have liked to see more of that.
Yeah, that was where that thought thread led me. Was I sort of would have liked to see Chinatown more and Iron Fist as the defender of Chinatown a little more, but oh well.
Yeah, I think there were some world building issues in season 2, even though like I said that I like kind of liked it. I think I might have mentioned in the other episode that I wish they showed more of the threat of the triads and like why it was actually, something dreadful looming over the people who lived in there and making that fight worth fighting. Where it felt like here Danny was just kind of doing it because he's a good person, and we've seen that story a million times. That being said, I did think there is a lot more to chew off of from season 2, like a lot of the I guess the whole addiction piece that I was kind of going for, in that you have Ward's literal addiction, and then you have like Danny's addiction with the Iron Fist, and just this whole like this whole theme of self-care. It was it was definitely more interesting to me in that respect, and there were a few more action scenes that I liked. Like we talked about the Crane sisters fight scene. Like it was this very like kinetic, dynamic fight scene where they just kept like picking up things around them, and it felt like a very very real action scene. It felt visceral in a way that like nothing in season 1 really got up to. It was exciting for once. Like I was like, oh cool, this is a cool fight scene that I'm like getting invested in. Ironically, Danny Rand was not in that fight scene.
It might not be a coincidence, but that's...
Oh sure, yeah. They could have had something with the flashback fight scene with Danny and Davos.
They really could have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just kept like cutting that up in interspersing it throughout that episode, just to like, I don't know, be artsy, let's say. But it could have really been like this brutal little sequence, but I guess they elected not to do that, so I guess they'll never get a chance to have their, I use the phrase hallway fight scene, but like that's kind of like I'm using that as like that was Daredevil's way of defining itself. Like it was its thesis statement for like, this is what the show is. And I don't really think there was that kind of scene in Iron Fist, even though there were a lot of bits and pieces that I liked throughout the show.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you saw the Hatchet Man at the start was sort of where I thought it was going to get into his element, and it really never transpired. There was some cool stuff in season 2, though. I thought that if the first season was a bit of a shit show because of scheduling and pressures to come out before Defenders and all this stuff, season 2 was really just like a massive reorganization. And I respect it for not taking the easy way out and having all of these changes happen at the beginning, but rather have season 2 be about change and moving the pieces on the board to where they needed to go, and putting in the work to reorganize the Iron Fist universe. I mean, you can almost imagine like if in the first episode Danny Rand had been knocked out and pulled over to the ritual, and Davos was Iron Fist for the whole season.
My god!
I mean, that could have easily happened. That
would have been terrible.
but they put in the work, and they made it feel like it evolved, and it got us to a point that I think all of us were genuinely excited for season 3.
Yeah,
because they unfairly played a trailer for it at the end of season 2. But like, I thought that they had some very interesting stuff. They had done the work and were ready to make a good season of television, and they will not get that opportunity now. So,
what if we gave Iron Fist a gun? No, wait. What if we gave him 2 guns?
I mean, it's ridiculous, but
I loved it.
Episode 6 in Iron Fist was the most comic booky, ridiculous thing, and that's what we all loved. And they were like, maybe we could just do that more, just make things silly and kind of awesome.
I mean, when you have a fan base who like will like go absolutely insane at a name drop like Orson Randall when like a schmuck like me has no clue who the hell that is. Like
I still don't. I haven't looked at any of the explanation videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
I guess I should now because I'm not going to get an explanation from the show.
Yeah, I wish they kind of served that audience a little earlier, you know. But I don't think anyone on the writing staff of season 1 knew what they were doing. So they're just like, okay, we have this comic book that I found under my couch, and Jeff Loeb has hired us to make 13 episodes out of this. I don't know. Trump's in the news. Hey, did you guys watch last night's Arrow? You know, let's make it kind of like that. I mean, that's what people were saying from the first trailer, right? I was like, oh.
I love the idea that they're all watching Arrow on their nights off, and so inspired by that.
Yeah.
Oh man. I mean, it was a ride. It was definitely a ride with Danny Rand and Colleen Wing, and Misty somehow became a major character in season 2.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked her in season 2, even though she was shoehorned in the last episode when Mary just decided to lock her up for no reason to let her escape and then become a part of the big fight at the end, which she had no emotional investment in. But what can you do? You know, Daughters of the Dragon.
I don't even know. I mean, Misty Knight does really well in scenarios where she's sort of like, oh hell no, like I didn't sign up for this kind of bullshit. And,
wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that they nailed that here. But I would. Oh, I was gonna say, like, so I guess she's gone, right? Because
both of her shows
were her 2 shows. So it was a bad day for that actress.
Yeah,
I don't know who plays her.
I was looking at potential thumbnails for this photo, and I found an official photo of Danny Rand's appearance in Luke Cage season 2, and I was like, oh man, this picture has not aged well. It's only been a few months, and I'm already looking at it, and I'm feeling a little bummed out now.
And that was one of the best Netflix cameos, because it was big. It had its proper time. Like, he cameoed for an entire episode.
Yep.
And they had a fight scene together, and he passed on he was like, here's what I've been studying, and here's what that can help you with, you know. Sort of helps him out, and then goes back to doing his own thing. And I thought that was a great model for Netflix.
Totally, yeah. It felt very comic booky, like the way characters make guest appearances, you know, because it's a shared universe, and that the way they did it just made sense. Which I can tell you right now, Daredevil season 3 does not do that at all. Even though I love that season. Yeah, so I think most of this has been dunking on Iron Fist, but I don't want to give the idea that I am glad that it's gone, because I'm not. Because listen, give me a couple episodes of Ward and Danny going on like this crazy like Asian adventure and just like getting into hijinks.
I think that the longer I've thought about it, the more I'm excited for a Colleen-centric alternate plot where she's sort of like...
I was going to mention that too.
Now she has to step up and to the call to adventure and sort of defend Chinatown. And she sort of hasn't had that hero's arc yet, and she needs her origin story, so to speak. And like that could be really good. I feel like that actress has been sort of... I don't know whether she's wasted or whether her range is smaller, but I like to think that she's capable of a lot of very powerful character development that just hasn't been going on. Not with a pirate queen though. That's not what I was excited for.
that was a very background side plot that I forgot about every few episodes.
Yeah. I feel like that was like
she should fight Luke Cage. She should fight bad Luke Cage. Right,
wouldn't that be cool? Like, yeah, like Luke Cage's Criminal Empire versus Colleen's Iron Fist.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah!
I would love that.
Bold new ground! They should have done that.
Or, like, the next Defenders season would be all, like, 3 of them teaming up to stop Luke Cage. Like, that would... There's some fun stuff that could have been done.
And then the Punisher comes in and he's like, I got a gun, and they're like, that's not gonna work on him, and he's like, okay, see you later.
Do you have any Judas bullets? 17.
No, that doesn't work anymore, remember?
Oh, that's right, because he's stronger now?
Yeah, I found these, I don't know, infinity bullets from the remnants of the... I don't know.
They might as well, right? Like...
Yeah, so... I don't know what's going to happen with these shows. Like, I assume that, I can't imagine that Jeff Loeb and company would let this enterprise, just falter, you know? Like, they had a plan, and this is definitely not going the way they expected. But
nope.
There must be some sort of contingency plan. There must be some way to quench the thirsts, let's say, of those Power Man and Iron Fist fans. And I don't really want to speculate too much on that because I have no clue what the business goings on are with that. I think some people think, some of my MMD colleagues believe that Marvel TV is like trying to play a hard game here, trying to play a long game with like, hey, give us more money for our shows, or else we're gonna go to Disney streaming. And Netflix is like, nah, man.
Well, so I thought that it was just... So my back of my mind was like, well, they're going to go to Disney streaming eventually. So maybe they just didn't bother to re-up because that's where they're headed. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see.
Again, we're not speculating. This might be the most Anthony thing that I say today.
Oh, please do.
But I think... Did Thanos' snap apply to Marvel shows? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, I mean, when you count Defenders as a canceled show, like, that's 3 for 3.
Yeah. There's about half of them left, right? I mean, all I'm saying.
Did you see the gif of... It's the scene from The Incredibles of Mr. Incredible, like, going through the Chrono's computer and like seeing all of the Marvel TV shows that have been canceled and in this very chilling fashion, and it was really funny. Bring back Agent Carter, season 3. Or at least give her a TV movie to end it out. It's such a strange thing, and here's the last thing I want to say about this whole ordeal, but it's such a strange thing in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is like built on long build-ups and, you know, these extended plans. To see a story go unfinished in the MCU is weird.
Yeah, very much so.
It is just, it's because that's a dead end for a part of a continuing, expanding universe. Like, that's just so strange that like part of it just entirely stops, and that just kind of like, no matter what it is, like, Inhumans sucked, but I was like, oh man, that's kind of a bummer that like that, you know, spoiler for Inhumans season 1, like they're earthbound now, and we'll just never know like what's gonna happen to them down there. So, and I would actually, if Kevin Feige were to announce like months from now that, hey, we're doing our own versions of Luke Cage and Iron Fist, like if they announced that and they were ignoring the shows, I would be mad. I would be actually properly, genuinely mad.
Well, yeah, I mean, I there's a part of me that hopes that they pull all those same people, especially the same actors together, and maybe take it to the streaming service. But yeah, I don't think that... I would hope they have a deep enough roster that they're not redoing shows that they've already had. I'd prefer, at the very least, we retire the jersey for
right.
Iron Fist and Luke Cage.
Yeah. And
just say, we tried it, you know, it due to whatever circumstances, it didn't work out, but this happened.
Yeah.
We will not forget Iron Fist and Luke Cage.
We hang up the 23 jersey, but then it comes back in the 45 jersey. And then And then he retires again and then plays baseball, and then, I don't know, he's in the Washington Wizards next time you know. Michael Jordan, everyone.
Would the basketball glow with the new...
Well, that's how it was in Space Jam, so I would say yes.
That's true. Iron Fist Space Jam crossover would be...
Yes.
Oh, man. There's just so many... Like, I think that's what it gets down to, is I wish that failing shows would be a playground for innovation and doing just crazy stuff to try and stay relevant instead of just being cut as like, oh, well, tried that, it didn't work, you know?
Do you want the shows to, like, eat each other alive? Like, should, like, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 6 have some Inhumans in them?
I mean, why not, right? Like, just, like, start crossing over more or start doing, like, crazier concepts, just, like, stand out. Because I feel like maybe the 4 Netflix shows were a little bit too... They each had their own gimmick, but to some degree they were all like darker, grittier takes on New York level street heroes. Yeah. Maybe 4 was too many. I could see that. And so maybe stand out, do something new. I don't know.
Telling you, they should have Arrowversed this whole thing and like have them go simultaneously, and they all have like a crossover event like once a year, you know. I do not watch any of the Arrowverse stuff. Last night I was watching the beginning of Crisis on Earth X.
Is that the one with Nazis?
Yes, there were Nazis in this one. It was...
I think I've seen that, yeah.
I've seen part 1 of 4. I'm going to watch part 2 tonight, because like, I'm just so fascinated. Because I saw that Legends of Tomorrow Season 4 trailer, and it began with a murderous unicorn impaling a hippie. So I was like, okay, there must be something interesting going on with this show. So, I don't know.
Yeah, Legends of Tomorrow is... Stuff happens in that show. I actually have not seen very much of it. I've seen, I think, 3 or 4 episodes. But,
I saw an image of a talking gorilla threatening college-aged Barack Obama. So I was like, okay, this show might be all right.
And it's really just like I'm not going to say recycling bin. It's more like the garbage disposal of the other Arrowverse shows. Because just characters just get thrown in there and blended together.
Splemon Legends. Well, they're just doing crazy stuff with them. And the writers of Legends are like, okay, yeah, cool, more toys to play with. And it's like, let's just...
Right, exactly.
What if a giant stuffed animal beat the big bad guy in the season finale, which I think is a real thing that happened. Like, I'm not making that up. In kind of like a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man kind of deal. I saw that YouTube clip and I was like, okay, I don't know what's happening, but stop making me interested in the Arrowverse. Just stop. I don't have time for this.
I will not watch Arrow, but I also won't watch Legends.
And
I hope that you do, and I hope you tell me about it.
Imagine if one of them was canceled, like it was the whole would that like take down the whole operation, you know, like. If suddenly they decided to cancel Arrow tomorrow, I don't know. It's such a strange thing when like they're not codependent on each other, but they're so you identify them all together. You know, it's like losing a sibling.
Right. I think it does come back to what you were saying, where Marvel TV has never been as successful as the movie counterpart. But in a sense, this really does feel like Marvel TV will never be as big as it was a month ago when it had all these different shows going. And it feels like they're scaling back with sort of... I haven't heard of anything that they're doing new. It's not like in preparation of an announcement of like, oh, now there's a new 4 series interconnected, whatever.
Right.
I mean, at least on the television side, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has ceased to grow and thrive and be prosperous, which is sad.
It's really interesting how the narrative has shifted, because I feel like at one point it was like, Marvel TV's doing too much. Like,
right.
Like Damage Control and whatever, New Warriors,
Squirrels.
whatever happened to that, and...
Squirrels, yeah.
I mean, I want to say there was I ran a news story a few weeks ago that was like the screenwriter of the first Wonder Woman movie is working on some sort of female focused Marvel show for ABC, And I was like, what the hell? Is that going to be low-budget A-Force? Because, like, there's no way you can, like, do a big-scale show like that on ABC.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a wake-up call, maybe, because you're going from, there are too many shows to, oh god, they're killing all the shows.
Like, well, I don't think we're quite there. I don't think we've got nothing. I think it's just the velocity is downwards, right? Like, the rate of change is subtracting shows instead of adding them, so... We'll see.
Yeah, so I think we should calm down a bit, even though it is sad, and, like, this doesn't, like, you don't cancel a movie franchise, like Marvel has not done that, like, besides, I guess, The Incredible Hulk. That's the only thing that really counts, because we haven't seen Betty Ross in a while.
No, we have not. There were some rumors she'd be back in Infinity War, which I guess were bunk, but...
Russo said she was dusted. Yeah. Off screen. They could not get Liv Tyler to film a cameo of her saying Bruce, and then she just turns into dust. But
watching a camera like in Wakanda for...
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so remember to pour one out for Iron Fist and Luke Cage, but I don't know, like we're recording this on Sunday night, like who knows, in the next 2 or 3 days by the time this goes up, maybe they're like by some miracle you're gonna see
full of Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah, you're gonna see a picture, a cryptid picture of Danny Rand with his glowing fist punching Luke Cage's hand and making a shockwave, and it'll come from the Twitter accounts. Everyone's gonna go crazy, but I don't know. That's wishful thinking. I don't think that's gonna happen. We'll just wait and see what happens, because we're still getting Jessica Jones Season 3. Even though Melissa Rosenberg is leaving after that season is done. And I want to say they just wrapped filming Punisher Season 2. So there's still more to come.
There is.
Yeah. I don't know what the hell they're going to be about, though. And... it would be really funny if they, like, inserted Easter eggs to Iron Fist and Luke Cage. Or like, oh, I hear Luke Cage is bad now. Or, hey, do you see Colleen with her glowing sword? And we're all like, haha, they canceled that.
I hope that is done. Or some, like, offhanded mention of, like, did you hear that both Luke Cage and Iron Fist were hit by trains and died?
Yeah.
Just some sort of awful closure.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did that with Agent Carter. It was like Coulson giving a tour of the base, and just like, oh, and Peggy Carter is one of our most famous agents, but a lot of her adventures were lost to time or like have not been declassified yet. So
wow.
Oh dear God. And also Civil War came out the same time Agent Carter was canceled, and then in that same Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episode, it opens with Coulson looking at the paper and seeing that Peggy Carter had died. So I was like, oh my God.
That's kind of that's kind of a nice connection, you know, between...
Well, I mean, it was unintentional because it all happened, like, it aired the same time it got canceled, so it was like...
Yeah.
So that was just kind of like, oh man, she died, like, twice, like, both in real life and in the fiction.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, anyway, I think that'll be it for us tonight.
It's a good...
Yeah, Thomas, you got I told Izzy and Anthony to talk about it last episode, but you have a two-parter coming up, is that correct?
I do have a two-parter coming up. Editing is almost begun.
Ooh. I thought you were going to say over, and I got really excited.
No, yeah, it's one of those fun bait and switches. But I went on a mental tangent for a really long time, thinking about essentially, I was thinking of why a shared universe could be problematic and why all these other universes haven't been able to make it work.
Yeah.
And sort of I was sort of looking at the problems and going, all of these problems get worse the more you add to a cinematic universe.
Yeah.
So the general gist of the two-parter is sort of moving forward, will Marvel buckle under the strain of sustaining this model?
Right.
But tune in. When is this episode coming out?
Well, this episode will come out on Thursday, October 20th, my calendar is very slow right now.
So
it'll come out the
it's this
25th,
Thursday,
so...
right? So I have, so this will tune in next week to hear all about Marvel's shared universe model. And the follow-up about what I call corners of the universe. And I'll just leave that as a teaser.
I can tell you, I can't wait to listen to it because I haven't yet. But
yeah, no, this will be. So I think this will be amazing because you won't have to edit it. So it'll be the first time you're hearing
thank
it.
God.
Will be when it actually comes out.
Dude, editing that Venom episode actually murdered me. I wanted to just dissolve after that.
I haven't yet heard it. I've been saving it for a workout this week.
Are you gonna work out for 2 hours because that's how long the episode is?
Is it actually?
Yeah, it's 2 hours. Yeah.
So my run today was actually 2 hours. So I should have listened to the Venom one.
While you were lost.
Yeah. Then I'd be less lost than the makers of Venom. But that's.
Yeah, Thomas, you are. I don't want to say infamous, but you are known for not having any social media you ever want to share at the end of the show. So
if we've got some time in this episode, I can explain what's going on with that. Because all of you guys are, you sort of have a brand and are trying to be seen as media reporters or writers or just generally personas on the internet. And this is. I love these podcasts very much, and I like doing them and talking about Marvel, but I have a day job where I sort of... so I'm a consultant, and part of that is just sort of maintaining a super competent and professional brand. So I try and keep my social media like completely cleansed of everything. I've considered deleting everything multiple times just because I don't want any clients getting into that. So I don't use social media and don't want to for the same reasons that you want to be followed. I want to not be followed.
Well, I can tell you are competent and professional on this show for the most part.
Yeah. Oh, why? Thank you. I appreciate that.
You can find me at Compenderizer. I usually put Izzy and Anthony's social media handles in the show notes as well. Let's see. Steve Malder did the music. Charles Villanueva did the logo. Marvel News Desk has our Patreon, and I feel like I should have mentioned this every single episode, but please subscribe. Actually, subscribe to AP Marvel.
I think I'm actually not yet subscribed.
Yeah, see, because
that might be something
the problem is that I've always assumed that you're listening to this, so you must already be subscribed. But that's too much of an assumption. So I'm going to say if you use Apple Podcasts. Or most other podcast providers, I use Pocket Casts, for example. Our RSS feed should be on that service. I think we were having trouble getting it on Google Play, and I don't think it's on Spotify, and we were working on that. But hit that subscribe. You'll get a nice little ping every Thursday. Thanks everyone listening. Don't forget to subscribe. Rest in peace, Danny Rand and Luke Cage. They're not actually dead. It's fine. Goodbye.
See ya.